Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Classic Dirt Bike TV, and thanks once more for tuning in to view my content here on YouTube. And if you're a brand new subscriber to my channel, then I do hope you find something interesting here with regards these old classic motocross machines. Okay, in this next video we're going to take a quick browse through John Stokes' 1983 480 Honda. Now, these Evolution Honda machines, of course, were certainly regarded as one of the best bikes that Honda ever made, and we're going to take a quick look at John Stokes' version in this very clip. So thanks once again for tuning in to Classic Dirt Bike TV, and let's just get straight into this video. Now, I have featured a few of these CR480 Hondas on my channel in the past, and this particular example here is John Stokes' 1983 480. Now, another reason, of course, that there have been a few of these bikes featured on my channel is because they're very popular with Evolution riders, and there's quite a few of them going around these days, although the number one reason, of course, for these 83 480s popularity is that they're just a very good all-round motocross machine. Although, as you know, the 480s are not for the faint-hearted, and they're certainly not a bike that you can just toddle around the racetrack with for a Sunday afternoon ride with your friends. These bikes are for serious motocross racers, and if you can hold the throttle open in top gear in one of these big beauties and live to tell the tale, then you're in a very elite group of humans, and that's for sure. But these 480 Hondas were brought out to replace the old CR450 bikes, which weren't great, it has to be said, and were quite heavy and unreliable, although these brand new 480s were a world apart from the older bike, and they had a good chassis, good suspension, and of course an absolutely bonkers two-stroke motor that could rev to the moon and back. Now, starting with the bike's front end, these 43mm Showa forks were top of the range for 1983, and although they had plenty scope for adjustment, they were still a bit on the soft side for an open class race bike. But experimenting with different weights of oil and fiddling about with the settings did improve matters, although these were still good enough as long as you weren't doing any huge Danny Magoo Chandler stunts. Now again, this single linkage monoshock rear end was quite radical for its day, and was decent in standard trim, and could be improved further by fitting a heavier and more upmarket rear shock. And again, there was a good range of adjustment on preload and damping on this part of the suspension, and further changes could be made with this gas reservoir clicker to change the settings from hard to soft, or even vice versa. Although, as we all know, the heart of these 480s was of course this awesome two-stroke motor that pushed out close to 50 horsepower and had more grunt than your average rider could cope with, and it was only top riders like the aforementioned Danny Magoo Chandler that could take these bikes by the scruff of the neck and ride it to its full potential. Now, there were plenty of weight-saving materials used on these 83 motors, with magnesium used on the engine casings, the brake backing plates, and of course the brake shoes. And again, Honda also added a fifth gear to this 83 motor, as the 82 bike had to make do with just a 4-speeder box, but this motor had a 6-petal reed valve as well, and the fuel flowed through that 38mm Mikuni like the proverbial waterfall, and once this engine was running in its sweet spot, it was like sitting on top of a ballistic missile. But as I said, these open class Honda 480s were certainly made for the big boys to ride, and if you were just a club rider out for a bit of fun on a Sunday, then this bike is most definitely not the bike for you. These monsters were built to be ridden hard, and the harder you ride them, the more they liked it. But this bike of John's is certainly in great condition for its age. Okay, naturally this DEP alloy tailpipe's not the original, but most of the rest of the bike certainly looks like it's stock. But despite the bike's size and that big Honda motor, this was still a reasonably light bike and was surprisingly only about 6 pounds lighter than the previous 82 Honda. Now, these 83 480s were fitted with Honda's well-proven and highly successful ProLink suspension system with this quite substantial alloy box section swing arm, which was very light, very strong, and had minimal flex and gave a decent amount of feedback to the rider when the going got tough. Now, a plastic fuel tank, of course, for 1983, and Honda's Lazy Boy seat, as it was known back in the day, with the front of the seat creeping over the rear section of the fuel tank. And these seats were considered the best in motocross at the time, and this naturally enabled the rider to shift his weight over the tank to help him make tight turns. Although in terms of their simplicity, these Honda 480 motors were pretty straightforward two-strokers. There was no fancy exhaust trickery or power valves to complicate the issue, although of course that never stopped them trying to pull your arms off if you weren't ready for takeoff when you snapped the throttle back. But the power was all set from about the low to mid range, which was quite where the motor's sweet spot lay, but thankfully there wasn't much after that near the top end, because these power plants had more than enough speed for even the ballsiest of riders to tame. But summing up, these 83 480 Hondas had it all. They had the looks, they had a good chassis and suspension, and of course one of the best engines of its time. And if you're a motocross junkie and you want power and handling and lots of it, then look no further. This bike will certainly do it all. But remember, this is not just another open class motocrosser, because when Honda drew up the plans for this machine, they made sure it was going to be a race winner, and without doubt they certainly achieved that goal, as this bike is looked upon even now in 2021 as certainly one of their best motocross achievements. Well, I do hope you enjoyed that very brief look around John Stokes' CR480 Honda. A very nice example of one of these evolution machines. Okay, coming up in my next video posting, we'll be taking a look at this very nice looking CZ360 belonging to Billy Chisholm. So I do hope you'll return to my channel to take a look at that particular machine. So once again, thanks for taking the time to view my video content here on YouTube, and we'll speak again once more when we all return to Classic Dirt Bike TV.